Do you still love me or not?
Hi, I'm Karen. This is Frankly K, where I do financial literacy videos, book reviews, journal with me's, and vlogs. So if any of that's interesting to you, take a moment and subscribe and like this video. And if you watch to the end, put a 4-leaf clover. And if you're not on your phone watching this, you're on TV or something, put a number. Put your favorite number. So this segment is my financial literacy segment called Frankly Financial, where awareness and clarity means power. Sorry I don't have a microphone. Some things are going on with the space on my computer. Today's not so much a hard topic about a certain like institution or any financial news. It's just a reaffirmation video about savings. So I had like some bullet points here. I'm just going to read them. This video is going to be very short. I just wanted to pop in here because I felt like someone else needed to hear this when I was thinking about it, mostly for myself. And the bottom line, like, it's okay to spend that savings. This is the emergency. This is the emergency. This is the thing. Now, I know there are different types of savings, like I say here. My first bullet point is it's okay to restart. It is okay to restart. A savings is not something static. A savings, you can think about it as something in plural. You can have multiple savings pots. They might not all be very large. They could all be very little. Like, you can literally start with $1 here, $1 there, $5 here, $5 there. The point is, it's multiple pots because they all have maybe a different purpose. So, like I said, emergencies, family planning, trips, retirement is probably the biggest one. Everyone immediately thinks about retirement because that is the biggest savings goal that we have in this country, really. Being able to be self-sufficient once you get older and retire out of your career. That is if you're in a field or if you have a career job which essentially enables you to retire, because there are some careers where you retire earlier than others because of the nature of the job. Or there's some careers where your career path wasn't as linear, so the retirement plans, you know, they're not as lucrative as somebody who maybe had a more linear path in their career. An emergency could also be if you have a car, your tire gets a nail in it, and you work 40 minutes away in a location where there's no public transportation going that way. That could be an emergency, losing your tire. It's an emergency because you got to get to work. Or it could be like if you're a homeowner, your water heater broke and it's January, you know what I mean? Or the air conditioner broke and it's July. But then the biggest one I have here is job flexibility. I also mean like the idea of being able to leave an environment that is no longer conducive, whether that's because of the people, the type of work, you got a better opportunity, but it's going to take a while for it to kick in because some onboarding processes, they take a while. The jobs I start at, we don't get paid for like a month sometimes. It's crazy. I think a lot of people go through that. So job flexibility, being able to maneuver without worrying about your next check as much as you would if you didn't have a fund for job flexibility. Now, of course, savings is always going to depend on how much you make and how much you have to spend in your daily life. So your fixed and variable expenses. I'm never here to tell people what those things are, but in a video a long time ago, I told you to delineate exactly what those two things are, what goes in each category, and what it is that are non-negotiables for you and everything like that. That's for budgeting. But when it comes to saving, budgeting is part of saving, but what I'm trying to say in this video is that there's budgeting and then there's savings. And part of budgeting, I feel like, is knowing that the savings is not supposed to be permanent. At some point, you have to spend your savings. Now, at some point might be 50 years from now. At some point might be 2 years from now. Trips might be closer. So my sister did one thing, because her best friend's like a travel agent, and my sister will save up, and her friend gives her time to save and everything. And she was going to Italy. and it was like a year in advance they planned it. So her savings pot was about a year out. So no, she wasn't going to touch that money for about a year. But when the trip came, it's time to spend the money, right? That it's important to, I want to say delineate again, just because I think this is my favorite word in the world, I guess. But it's, you want to be precise. You want to be exact about what you're saving for. I think the biggest trouble and why a lot of us dibble and dabble in our savings and it doesn't get to accumulate the way that it naturally could is because we do not put a real title on it. You want to at least title it so you know what you're saving for. Having a general savings is fine if that's a good way for you to start. But having a saving with a goal in mind, I think that's why goals are always very important, because it gives you exactly what for. That helps you remind yourself to stave off. Like maybe you want to go to the movies and you're like, oh, I'll just take $30 out of the savings. When you say it like that, it doesn't sound that bad. But if you say something like, oh, I'll just take $30 out of my trip to Brazil money. I'll just take $30 out of my trip to Angola money. You're going to start be like, my Angola trip. You know, you'll start to remember why you're saving it, and maybe the movies won't feel as dire, or maybe you'll be able to just wait a week and keep in mind that you want to go to the movies. There's temporary, long-term, short-term savings. No savings account is ever supposed to be permanent. Family planning. Those are probably another very serious savings category. A lot of times family planning could be for a kid coming or a kid you already have. It could be for elderly parent care. It could be for sibling care. It could be for a lot of different things. And again, that is a savings that it might be more long-term, especially if it's for a child, because it might be something like their college fund. You have that titling on your savings, you understand what it's for, and you're less likely to mess with it. That's the most important part. But beyond that, it's also understanding that all of those titlings have a time limit. So you don't have to feel guilty about spending your savings. So like with the emergency pot, back to what I was saying, you might feel like, oh my God, I just got to $500. I finally reached $1,000. It took me 6 months. It took me all year. It took me however long it took. And now you have to spend 800, 900 of it, and you're thinking, no, I have to start all over. It's okay. It's absolutely okay, because at the end of the day, you were in a place where that 900 was sitting there. Now is the day you spend it. So it is okay to restart a savings. I remember one year I had got up to 500 fairly quickly. I think it took me like 6 months, and that was really quick for me, especially because I'm someone who puts a little at a time, which will go into my next point. But yeah, I got it, and then I had to buy a new phone. So I bought a refurbished phone. $300 something is a lot of money to come out for one item. So that's that. But like I said, the 500, it hurt because it took me so long to get there, I felt like. And I had to spend it and restart. But I learned that it was okay. And the fact that that was titled as my general emergency fund. So anything where I suddenly needed a large amount of cash, that was what that fund was for. This will go into my next point. I don't know how your paychecks are coming or what your bills are, but stuff like that. It opens your mind up. Starting, I think incrementally, starting to where you can just start makes all the difference. Instead of thinking you have to be saving these large chunks and that you can't ever touch it. Those are two, I think, of people's biggest mental blocks when it comes to starting a savings or starting multiple savings pots, because they're thinking all of them have to start at some ridiculous number, or all of them you have to give a ridiculous amount to each, and you don't. And then on top of that, once you title it, you can realize that there's a goal for each of these. So that's my biggest advice, those two things. Start incrementally and honestly at your bare minimum, and don't be afraid to spend it when it's time. That is what a savings is for, okay? You've done the work, the money is there, use the money. That's, again, all of that. So that was just my general reminder for today. Not a very long video, but I hope it reached who I think it needed to reach. Thanks for watching. If you watched to this point, I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Happy savings. Bye. Oh, and happy Women's Month.